Dear weary heart, you made it. You're here, at the end of a week that felt like it would never end. A week that asked more of you than you thought you had to give. A week that left bruises you can't see but definitely feel. In your chest, in your shoulders, in the way even small things feel heavier than they should. I know you're sitting there right now feeling scraped raw, like you've been through something, even if you can't point to one big catastrophic event. Sometimes the hardest weeks aren't the ones with obvious disasters. They're the ones filled with 1,000 small cuts. The difficult conversation that went wrong, the deadline that crushed you, the disappointment that settled in your stomach like a stone, the moment you realized you couldn't be everything to everyone, the night you cried in your car before going inside because you needed to fall apart somewhere no one could see. You carried all of that. Every single day you woke up and carried it. And I want you to know, I see that. I see how hard you tried. I see how much you gave even when you felt empty. I see how you showed up, even when showing up felt impossible. You did it. You survived the week, and that's worth acknowledging, worth honoring, worth sitting with for a moment before you rush into the next thing. There's a beach I used to visit where the waves were relentless, not the gentle, rhythmic waves you see in vacation postcards. These were powerful, insistent, the kind that knocked you over if you weren't careful. And at the end of the day, after hours of being pummeled by water, I'd walk back to shore and find that I was covered in sand, in my hair, in my ears, under my fingernails, in places sand had no business being. That's what hard weeks do. They get into everything. They leave residue. You can't just walk away from a difficult week and expect to feel clean and fresh immediately. The stress gets into your body. The tension stays in your jaw. The worry loops in your mind. The exhaustion settles into your bones. And even though the week is technically over, you're still carrying it with you, still finding pieces of it in unexpected places. So, if you're not feeling celebratory right now, if you're not bouncing into the weekend with joy and energy, that makes sense. You're still covered in the sand of the week you just lived through. You're still processing what happened, still feeling the impact of those waves. And that's okay. You don't have to be over it yet. You don't have to have moved on just because the calendar page turned. Give yourself permission to still be in it, to still be affected, to need time to shake off all that sand before you can feel like yourself again. I wonder what it cost you this week. Not in money or time, though maybe those too. I mean, what it cost you internally. What parts of yourself did you have to push down to get through? What dreams did you have to postpone? What joy did you have to sacrifice because there simply wasn't room for it alongside everything else you were managing? Maybe you had to be strong when you wanted to be vulnerable. Maybe you had to smile when you wanted to scream. Maybe you had to be professional when you felt like a mess. Maybe you had to give advice when you needed someone to advise you. Maybe you had to be the reliable one, the capable one, the one who has it together when inside you were barely holding on. That kind of week, the kind where you have to be one thing on the outside while being something completely different in the inside, that kind of week is exhausting in a way that's hard to explain. It's the exhaustion of division, of being split between who you are and who you have to be, and by the end of it, you might not even know which version is real anymore. Both versions are real, the strong you and the struggling you, the capable you and the overwhelmed you, the version that made it through the week and the version that's not sure how you did it. You don't have to choose. You don't have to decide which one is the real you. You're allowed to be both, to contain multitudes, to be complicated and contradictory and human. I want to ask you something, and I want you to really think about your answer. What did you learn about yourself this week? Not in a toxic positivity way, not in a everything happens for a reason way. I'm not asking you to find a silver lining or to be grateful for your struggles, but genuinely, what did you discover about yourself in the midst of the hardness? Maybe you learned that your breaking point is further than you thought. Maybe you learned that you can function on less sleep, less energy, less support than you realized. Or maybe you learned the opposite, that you need more help than you've been asking for, that your limits are real and deserve to be respected. Maybe you learned who shows up for you when things get hard, and maybe, painfully, you learned who doesn't. Maybe you learned that some relationships you thought were strong are actually fragile. Or maybe you learned that some people you barely know can offer more kindness than you expected. Maybe you learned that you can cry in a bathroom stall and then go back to work, that you can feel like you're falling apart and still function, that you can doubt yourself completely and still make choices, that you can be terrified and still be brave. Whatever you learned, it's part of you now. It's information you didn't have last week. And even if it's painful information, even if you wish you didn't have to learn it this way, it's still valuable. It's still yours. And you get to choose what to do with it. There's a kind of muscle soreness that only comes from using muscles you don't usually use. It's different from the soreness you get from your regular routine. It's deeper, stranger, more uncomfortable, and it shows up a day or two later when you've almost forgotten what you did to cause it. Emotional soreness works the same way. Right now, as the week ends, you might not feel the full impact yet. You might feel numb, or relieved, or just tired. But in a day or two, when you finally relax, when you finally feel safe enough to let your guard down, that's when it might hit you. The weight of what you went through, the delayed reaction to the stress, the tears that didn't have time to fall during the week but show up now that there's space for them. Don't be surprised if you fall apart a little this weekend. Don't be alarmed if emotions come that don't make logical sense, if you cry over something that seems small, if you feel irritable or raw or sensitive. That's just the emotional soreness catching up to you. That's your body and heart finally processing what you couldn't process in the moment. Let it happen. Don't judge it. Don't try to talk yourself out of it. Your system is just doing what it needs to do to heal. The falling apart is part of the putting back together. The breaking down is how you clear space to build back up. Can I tell you what I wish someone had told me after my hard weeks? I wish someone had said, "You don't have to be productive this weekend. You don't have to catch up on everything you let slide. You don't have to clean the house, run the errands, answer the emails, be social, make plans, or do anything that feels like work." Because here's what I always did. I'd survive a brutal week, make it to the weekend, and then immediately fill that time with all the things I couldn't do during the week. I'd treat rest like another item on my to-do list. I'd feel guilty for not using my free time productively. I'd turn the weekend into a different kind of work. And I'd start the next week just as depleted as I ended the last one. So let me say to you what I wish I'd heard. Rest is not something you have to earn. Recovery is not lazy. Taking time to do nothing is not wasteful. Your worth is not determined by your productivity, and your weekend doesn't have to justify itself. If you need to sleep for 12 hours, sleep. If you need to lie on the couch and watch TV all day, do it. If you need to cancel plans, cancel them. If you need to order takeout instead of cooking, order it. If you need to let the laundry sit and the dishes pile up, let them. The world will not end if you rest. The responsibilities will still be there on Monday. But you need to recover. You need to let your nervous system settle. You need to give your heart space to feel what it couldn't feel when you were in survival mode. Productivity can wait. You can't. There's something that happens in forests after a fire. Everything looks destroyed. The trees are charred. The ground is black. The landscape is devastated. It looks like death, like nothing will ever grow there again. But underneath the ash, beneath what you can see, something is already happening. Fire releases nutrients back into the soil. It clears away the undergrowth that was blocking sunlight. It cracks open certain seeds that can only germinate after being exposed to heat. And within weeks, sometimes days, new growth appears. Green shoots pushing up through the ash. Life returning to places that looked lifeless. I'm not saying the fire was good. I'm not saying you should be grateful for the hard week. But I am saying that even in the devastation, even in the aftermath of something that burned through your life and left you feeling charred, something is happening beneath the surface. Seeds are cracking open. Nutrients are being released. Space is being cleared for new growth. You can't see it yet. It's too soon. Right now, all you can see is the ash, the damage, the loss. But I promise you, something is already beginning. Something you can't force or rush. Something that will surprise you when it appears. You just have to wait. You just have to trust that life has a way of returning even to the burned places, especially to the burned places. So what now? How do you move forward from here, carrying the weight of this week into whatever comes next? Gently, that's how. You move gently. You speak to yourself gently. You make expectations gently. You hold your own heart gently, like it's something precious that's been through something hard. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know what next week will bring or how you'll handle it. You don't have to have a plan or a strategy or a new approach. Right now, all you have to do is be here at the end of this week, acknowledging what it took from you and what you somehow still managed to give. You don't have to be strong. You don't have to be resilient. You don't have to bounce back or snap out of it or look on the bright side. You can just be tired. You can just be depleted. You can just be someone who went through something hard and needs time to recover. And that's not just okay. It's wise. It's self-aware. It's the kind of emotional intelligence that comes from actually paying attention to your internal experience instead of just powering through it. Before I close this letter, I want to give you one more image to carry with you. There's a Japanese practice called forest bathing, Shinrin Yoku. It's not about hiking or exercising or achieving anything. It's just about being in the forest, sitting, breathing, letting the forest atmosphere wash over you. Studies show it reduces stress hormones, lowers blood pressure, improves mood. Not because you do anything, but because you allow yourself to simply be present in a healing environment. You can't control what next week brings. You can't prevent hard things from happening. But you can create moments of forest bathing for your soul. Moments where you're not trying to fix or achieve or overcome anything. Moments where you just exist, just breathe, just allow yourself to be held by something larger than your struggle. Maybe that's listening to music that moves you. Maybe that's sitting outside and feeling the air on your skin. Maybe that's talking to someone who loves you. Maybe that's reading something that makes you feel less alone. Maybe it's just closing your eyes and taking 5 deep breaths, acknowledging that you're here, you're alive, you made it through. These moments might seem small. They might feel insignificant compared to the weight of what you're carrying, but they matter. They're how you recover. They're how you gather the strength for whatever comes next. They're how you remind yourself that life is not just the hard weeks. It's also the spaces between them, the moments of grace, the simple fact that you're still here to experience anything at all. Dear tender heart, you did it. You survived a week that wasn't easy. You carried weight that wasn't light. You showed up when you could have shut down. You kept going when you wanted to stop. And now you get to rest. You get to recover. You get to be someone who went through something difficult and came out the other side. Maybe not unscathed, but here, still here. The week marked you. It changed you. And that's okay. You're allowed to be different now. You're allowed to have learned things you didn't want to learn, to have limits you didn't want to discover, to need things you didn't want to need. You're also allowed to be proud of yourself. Even if you feel like you barely made it, you did make it. Even if you feel like you failed in places, you succeeded in the most important way, you're still here, still breathing, still capable of being loved, even if you don't feel particularly lovable right now. Next week will come with its own challenges and demands, but that's future you's problem. Right now, this moment, this weekend, this is for healing, for recovering, for being gentle with the tender places this week created. You deserve that gentleness. You've earned that rest. And I hope you can give it to yourself without guilt, without reservation, without feeling like you have to justify your need for recovery. You went through something real. Honor that. Honor yourself. Honor the fact that you're still standing, even if you're standing on shaky legs. You're going to be okay. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but slowly, gently, in ways you can't predict, you're going to heal. You're going to find your footing again. You're going to remember that hard weeks don't last forever, and neither does the pain they leave behind. Until then, be kind to yourself. Rest when you can. Feel what you need to feel. And know that you're not alone in this, not in the hard weeks, and not in the recovery that follows. I'm proud of you for making it through. With great respect and care, someone who knows how long a hard week can feel.